Welcome to the Emancipated Mind Show. My name is Anneshia Freeman. I'm also known as the locksmith because I make keys for locks in the mind. I'm an award-winning master-level therapist, and I also have an MBA. I'm the creator of a cognitive restructuring program entitled The Lies That Bind. This show exposes and challenges dysfunctional, unconscious beliefs that cause people to engage in self-defeating behaviors repeatedly, despite the consequences. This show is streamed live via Facebook and YouTube every Thursday from 7 o'clock p.m. to 7:45 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Again, welcome to the Emancipated Mind Show. Hello, my name is Anneshia Freeman. I'm also known as the locksmith because I make keys for locks in the mind. Welcome to episode 23 of the Emancipated Mind Show. This is a show that exposes the root causes of many problems that people face in their lives. Problems such as self-sabotage, procrastination, people-pleasing, perfectionism, dysfunctional relationships, addictions, low self-esteem, codependency, and unrealistic expectations. Tonight's episode is under the umbrella of procrastination, and the topic tonight is a place called Go. That's actually the name of a chapter in my book entitled What's Really Going On. This is volume 1 of my book. I'll be releasing volume 2 later this year. So I'm going to talk about how a lot of people are at a place in their lives called Go, but they never go. So I'm going to read the chapter from my book, and I'm going to expound on the paragraphs, and I'm also going to expose 2 dysfunctional, unconscious beliefs that cause people to stay stuck, talking about their dreams and talking about their goals without putting any action behind them. Now, whenever you hear me use the terms lies, issues, unaddressed issues, or the buttons people push, as I use those terms interchangeably, I'm referring to dysfunctional, unconscious beliefs that cause people to engage in self-defeating behaviors repeatedly despite the consequences. So let's get started. So, as I said, the topic is a place called Go, which is a chapter from my book. So each of these chapters in this book that contains 31 cognitive restructuring articles. These articles were originally featured in a biweekly column in a newspaper years ago when I wrote for a particular multicultural newspaper. And so each chapter starts with a quote. So the quote for this chapter is by Karen Lamb. And the quote says, "A year from now, you may wish you had started today." So a lot of people who are struggling with procrastination, they don't understand that eventually you come to a place called Go, a place where you have to start. You have to go. You have to initiate the plan. You can't keep talking about it. So I'm going to read the first paragraph and then I'll expound on it. So it says, the first paragraph says, in January of 2001, I began my academic journey at Grand Rapids Community College. At the time, I was living in a recovery house and talking about my educational plans at a well-known 12-step program of which I am a member. There were times when people would hear me talk about my challenges and successes and struggles at college, and they would approach me afterwards and say, "You know, Anneshia, I've been thinking about going to college, or I've been thinking about going back to college. You have really inspired me." Well, and I wrote this article for this column, this newspaper column back in 2011. But it took me 12 years. I have 4 college degrees, 2 master's degrees. So I went to school for a long time. Now everyone doesn't go to school that long, but for what I plan to do for my dreams, it required that I have those 2 master's degrees. So in 2012, when I completed my 4th college degree, a lot of people who had came up to me in 2001 and said, "Hey, you're really inspiring me." The people who had approached me in 2002, they were like, "I hear you talking about school, and I'm really inspired, and I've been thinking about going, and I just want to let you know that you're really inspiring me." Well, some of those people who approached me and made those comments, they followed through. They took action. They went to school. They completed 2 or 3 degrees, some of them, but a lot of the people didn't. And in 2012, when I graduated with my 2nd master's degree, some of those same individuals would say the same thing to me. "You really inspire me. I'm still thinking about going to school." And this was 12 years later. Okay. And so they didn't understand. And I'm not making fun of them, but I'm challenging people. There's a place called Go where you have to operationalize what you're talking about. But in a minute, I'm going to identify 2 culprits, 2 dysfunctional unconscious beliefs to procrastinate. And so there is a point in life when we must stop thinking about something and start doing something. We often hear the saying, "The longest journey starts with the first mile." I say the journey begins with the first step. There was a day back in 2001 when I walked onto the campus of that community college. When I walked back in 2001, when I walked onto the campus of that college, I was nervous, unsure. I felt insecure. I felt shaky, but I was at a place called Go. And how I felt was irrelevant. I was there. I did not get there by myself. I had a lot of people encouraging me and challenging me. At the time, I was living in a recovery house. For people who don't know me or my story, I'm a person in long-term recovery. And what that means is that I have not used any drugs or alcohol in over 22 years. So that first year that I started my academic journey in 2000, my clean date is August the 7th of the year 2000. So when I started going to college in January of 2001, I had only been clean for a few months. So I was very insecure and unsure about my academic journey and even about my recovery, because I was very new to the recovery process. But I had some people who had been in recovery for a while encouraging me. One of the individuals was the director of the recovery house. She had a rule about her recovery house. She said, "You will be 2 feet on the floor by 6 a.m. at the latest." She didn't care about the fact that you had paid your rent. She said, "This is not a flop house. You will either work, go to school, or if you have some other income that doesn't require you work, you will volunteer somewhere." And even though I've never been a lazy person, I was not even lazy in active addiction, but I still had a lot of fear about the recovery journey, about living life on life terms. So she inspired me. She let us know, "You're at a place called Go." So some people need a little push, to go. So I want to make that point. Too many people are stretching. That's what I call it. When people keep talking about what they're going to do and talking about their goals and talking about their dreams, but they don't put any action behind it. I call it stretching. And sometimes it sounds like this. You may hear some people say, "I've been thinking that I should lose some weight, so I'm thinking about joining the gym." Or they may say, I think I should get out of this dysfunctional relationship. It's not healthy. I keep having the same problems with this person. We're going around in circles. Or you may hear someone say, I believe that I should start my business. I have this awesome business ideal for a business, and I think I should start. I call that stretching. When you hear people talk about that, their goals over and over and over without putting any action behind what they're talking about. Some people even spiritualize the talking. They say, I believe the Lord is leading me to do such and such, but you've heard them say that over and over and over. And it might be you that's doing that. And this is not about judging you. This is about helping you understand a place called go. And shortly, I'm going to expose 2 dysfunctional beliefs. There's more than 2, but I'm going to talk about 2 dysfunctional beliefs that are notorious for causing people to procrastinate. So this is your life. Let me make that point. This is your life. This is not a dress rehearsal. And so many of the people who have told me that I inspired them and that they wanted to do some of the things they saw me doing. It's been 22 years now. I've been clean 22 and a half years. So here it is, 22 and a half years later. A lot of individuals have gone on and accomplished goals and I have new goals that they're working on. But a lot of people are still sitting around talking about their goals and what they want and what they want to do eventually one day. And so I encourage you, if you're listening to me, our topic tonight is a place called go. And I'm going after the two dysfunctional unconscious beliefs that cause people to procrastinate, cause people to talk about their goals and their dreams over and over and over and over without putting any action behind it. This is your life. This is your life. And I say this to people a lot in my work as a life coach and as a master's level therapist. There's that dash between the day you're born and the day you die. That dash, that's a short period in time. And I encourage you, if you have some goals, some dreams, to go after them, to realize you're at a place called go. So now I'm going to talk about 2 dysfunctional beliefs that cause people to procrastinate, that cause people to talk over and over and over again about their goals without putting any action behind the talk. So one of the dysfunctional unconscious beliefs is talk very profoundly about the situation, but take no action to change anything. This is one of my cognitive restructuring cards. This is a dysfunctional unconscious belief. People who struggle with this belief, they don't consciously think like this. They wouldn't walk into a room and say, hello, I talk very profoundly about situations and I take no action to change anything. I talk about my goals, but I take no action to operationalize a plan to meet those goals. They wouldn't say that unless they were aware that they struggled with this unconscious belief. The belief is unconscious. And there's a lot of individuals. And the reasons that a lot of times they can stay stuck is because they hang around people who struggle with this belief too. So one person will talk very profoundly about their goals or their dreams. Then the other person will talk very profoundly about their goals and their dreams. So it's very important that you become aware of what you're listening to, who you're listening to. When you discover that you struggle with this belief and you make a decision that you're going to fight this belief so you can stop procrastinating, you're going to have to be aware of other procrastinators who will try to encourage you to talk and talk and talk and talk instead of taking action to operationalize what you're talking about. There's a place called go. And some people have been at the starting line for years. And if you think about a starting line for a race, they have the little starter gun and they go pow, and then the people take off running. But a lot of people, they done went pow, pow, and others are running. But some people, because of these dysfunctional beliefs, are still standing at the starting line stretching. talking about their goals. So I'm going to read the functional belief on the back of my cognitive restructuring cards that challenge the lie, talk very profoundly about the situation, but take no action to change anything. Talking very profoundly about the problem or a goal over and over again is a waste of time. When you are through talking and sounding profound, the problem or the goal that you want to achieve is still there, unsolved or unmet, and you have used a lot of energy that could have went into implementing a solution or achieving a goal. You may have been around people who are addicted to complaining and talking about problems, or people who are addicted to talking about their goals. They may even use a cliche or a famous quote or even a Bible verse to justify their lack of actions. You may have picked up that habit via observation. You may have used it as a coping mechanism to vent your frustration and get enough relief to go back in the ring for another round of aggravation. And let me explain what I mean by that. So people who struggle with this belief, talking about a situation over and over again, and the situation could be a problem or it could be a goal that a person wants to achieve. People who have picked up the habit or who are afflicted by this belief and they just talk, they're usually frustrated and aggravated because the problem is not being solved, the goal is not being met, and they watch other people living the quality of life that they dream of living. So they're venting by talking over and over again about their problems that they're facing. And a lot of their problems that they're facing is because they haven't taken action to achieve goals or to address the problem. And a lot of times the problems that they're facing is directly connected to the goal they have that would address the problem. So I wanted to make that point. That talking over and over again is an inefficient use of the resources of time and energy. How about you first identify the problem? Make sure it's not the symptom. Generate some possible solutions. Try implementing the best one, then check to see how it worked. You can use input from other solution-oriented individuals and develop a new habit of solving problems. So now I'm going to restate that sentence with regards to goals. If you have a goal that you want to achieve, how about you first articulate the goal, then identify the objectives, the steps you have to take to reach your goal, and then write an implementation plan. So how am I going to do this? What is the first step I need to do? What is the second step? What do I need to do to accomplish the first step? So let me use my example. So when I decided that I wanted to go after, my academic goals, that I wanted to pursue some college degrees, the first thing I had to do was do some research. So I asked people. I was new to the particular city that I was living in at the time. So I asked people about, the colleges and the universities, and then people gave me information. But after they gave me the information, I had to take another step. So I went down to the college, and learned some things. But let me go back. First, I started with the GED, because even though I had completed a particular high school when I was at a program years ago, it was a program for people who struggled with certain problems, and it was in Pennsylvania, and I was a teenager at the time, and I had completed their program. It was an accelerated Christian education program, and I had completed it, went back to Detroit, and I had graduated from secretary school and had worked as a medical secretary. But when I got clean and went to the college, when I got clean and wanted to sign up for college, they would not accept the diploma from that particular school. They said it wasn't properly accredited. So I had to take my GED. So I got my GED. And I got that in a matter of weeks. So that was the first step. So let me backtrack. And so even though I had plans to pursue college, I didn't even have a chance to sign up on my own, because the last test I was studying for, the last test for my GED, and I was in the room at this particular school where they had this adult education program, and I was preparing for the last test for the GED. So I'm going through the study guide. A lady came and sat next to me. She said, "Hello, I'm here to sign you up for college." And she said it with such authority in her voice, I didn't even know I had a choice. I was like, okay. Now I knew I was going to go to college. I had already been talking about it and finding information out, but she said it like I didn't have a choice. I'm like, okay. And she said, name. She pulled out the application and started filling the application out with me. But that still was a step, because I could have told her, no, I don't want to go to college. Or I could tell her, I'm thinking about it. Or I could have told her, I'm going to, I've been asking about the colleges, and I'm going to go, do my own research, and I'm going to go on my own and fill out the application. But that moment when that lady sat down there and said, I'm here. She didn't ask me, did I want to go to college? She said, I'm here to sign you up for college. That was a place called go. One of my mentors says, when you make a decision, a real decision when you make a real decision to make some changes, he said, he was talking about a real decision that's backed up with action. He says the welcoming committee from the next level is dispensed. And I believe, or dispersed rather, and I believe that's what happened that day when that woman sat me down. So I'm going to go back to the steps. So you have to come up with a plan if you want to reach a goal. Then you have to come up with the objectives, the steps, how you're going to make it happen. But talking about it over and over and over and over and over will not replace action. There's a place called go when you have to start taking the steps that you've been talking about. And for some people, they don't know what they need to do. That's when you need mentors. That's when you have to reach out and ask people for help. So the next step I had to do when I was working on my associate's degree, after I signed up, they started sending me letters to the recovery house I was living in. They told me I needed to come down and take what they call a placement test. So I had to schedule that. I went down and took the placement test. That was a step. A lot of people may look at people's goals that they've achieved. Oh, you have 4 college degrees. You have 4 master's degrees. But there was a lot of steps. The GED was a step. The filling out the application with the lady was a step. Taking the placement test was a step. I was catching the bus, going around doing all of those things. Those were steps. Then the first day of the first semester of college, that was a step. Going to that first class, that was a step. I just didn't wake up one day and, oh, wow, I have 4 college degrees. It didn't work like that. I'm just using my educational goals as an example. Whatever your goal is, if it's to lose weight, if it's to get out of a toxic relationship, if it's to start a business, whatever your goals are, there's a place called go, where you're going to have to stop talking about it and start being about it. So we talked about one dysfunctional belief that causes a lot of people to procrastinate. So now I'm going to talk about another culprit, another dysfunctional unconscious belief that causes people to talk about goals without actually taking steps to meet those goals. One of the other beliefs, now there's lots, there's more than just the 2 that I'm talking about, but another one is everything you do will turn out wrong. Now, these are unconscious beliefs that I'm talking about. They're unconscious. People don't consciously think like that. People who are afflicted by this belief, also known as a lie, they usually wouldn't walk into a room and say, hello, I think everything I do, everything I try to do is going to turn out wrong. These are dysfunctional unconscious beliefs that in most cases were programmed into people's minds during the formative years. The brain is developed, the mind is programmed. The mind is programmed primarily during the formative years by how you are treated and by what you observe. So people who struggle with the belief talk very profoundly about the situation or your goals, but take no action to accomplish your goals or to change anything. A lot of people who have that issue, they got that by observing people talking very profoundly about situations but taking no action. So for people who have this particular issue, everything you do will turn out wrong. A lot of times they internalize this belief from maltreatment. They may have been verbally and emotionally abused. They may have grew up in a household where someone said, "You can't do anything right." Or whenever they tried to do something that they were a novice at, that they were just trying to learn how to do for the first time and they didn't do it perfectly, someone harshly criticized them, or in some cases even punished them. So because they didn't have perfect execution the very first time they tried to do something that they were just learning to do. So over time, they started believing that everything they do would turn out wrong. I heard one young lady said that a teacher said to someone she knows, she heard that a teacher had told a child that she knows, "You can't do anything right." And that is horrible. And that person went up there and had a talk with that teacher too. Because, children, childhood is the formative years. That's when the unconscious mind is being programmed. So a lot of people have these dysfunctional beliefs in their unconscious mind that follow them into their adult lives if there's no intervention, if there's no cognitive restructuring. So this belief is another one that causes people to procrastinate, to talk about their goals over and over and over again, because this belief is running in the background, telling them that's not going to work. That's not going to work. This belief is running in the background doing worst case scenarios, giving them worst case scenarios. If you try this, that's not going to work. If you do this, that's not going to work. And when you're going after your goals, you may go one path and that may not work. That doesn't mean everything you do will turn out wrong. Ask Thomas Edison. That just means, okay, well, that didn't work. Back to the drawing board. But people who struggle with this dysfunctional belief, they don't have a back to the drawing board attitude, because the belief is telling them everything you do will turn out wrong. And that's a lie. That's not true. So I'm going to read the functional belief on the back of my cognitive restructuring card that challenges the lie, everything you do will turn out wrong. How do I know what will happen unless I try? Everything I do will not turn out wrong. There are a lot of wrong things that I did that turned out right. And I'll tell you what I mean by that. For people just joining, I'm a person in long-term recovery with over 22 and a half years clean from all drugs and alcohol. But when I was in active addiction, I planned to engage in some self-defeating behaviors, and they turned out the way I planned. So everything, even though it was something wrong, it turned out the way I had planned. So, and I explained that on the card. What that means is that I did a lot of self-defeating things, and I did them with precision and distinction. I have proof that some endeavors that I undertook turned out exactly as they were supposed to, according to the principles of logical consequences. With that proof in hand, I can go forth and begin instituting some positive activities, resting assured that the same principles apply. Even if things don't turn out exactly as I expected them to, I can learn from the situation what part I did right and what part I did wrong. I could also ask for input from others who have done what I'm attempting to do and have experience that will benefit me. I could accomplish so much if I overcome this fear that everything you do will turn out wrong. This is such a debilitating belief, and it causes people to procrastinate. It causes people to be at the starting line and don't go. Just stay at the starting line, stretching, talking about their goals, talking about their dreams, watching other people accomplish their goals, watching other people achieve their dreams. There, I heard a wise man once say, some people's minimums are other people's maximum. Do not allow a person who does not have your capacity or your determination or your dreams, your types of dreams, determine what you can and can't do, or even try to tell you how well you're doing, because you may be in the early developmental stages of accomplishing a goal. And sometimes people who have never did what you're trying to do, they may try to discourage you. I remember a lot of times when I would go to the 12-step meeting venting and complaining about how hard school was, because it was hard. I had to get my college legs, so to speak. It was hard. And so I wasn't venting because I was going to stop. I was venting because it was frustrating. But some people would come up to me. A lot of people encouraged me. But I would have some people that would come up to me and say, you shouldn't be putting all that pressure on you. That's not good for your recovery. You need to chill out. And I was like, okay, thank you for sharing that with me, because I knew down deep inside that even though it was hard, that I had a dream and I was going to make it happen. I was going to accomplish my goals, because when I was in active addiction, being in active addiction was hard. And I wasn't in active addiction thinking this is hard, it was hard. It was terrible. That was a horrible way to live. But I lived like that for about 15 years. So I know I would challenge myself. You did that hard, self-destructive behavior for years. I know you can walk down this goal, the requirements to meet this goal. And so I would have to challenge myself. But I also had other people to challenge, that encouraged me and challenged me to accomplish my goal. So I'm going to read another paragraph from the article, A Place Called Go. Another point I want to make is, do not run to the next level poorly trained. That is not what a place called go means. A place called go is about doing what you need to do on each level. And when you have completed the necessary task on one level, going to the next level and doing what needs to be done there. I could not have gone to the master's program until I had completed the bachelor's program and the associate's program. I had to be conditioned on one level to write 3-page papers, then 6-page papers, then 15-page papers, in order to be ready to write 25 and 30-page papers, in which each section had to meet a paragraph of criteria. They would have these grids in the master program for your papers, and these grids would say this, this section has to meet this criteria, this section has to meet this criteria, this section has to meet this criteria. And a lot of times I had to look up the words that were on the grid to understand what the criteria meant. So I couldn't have done that if I hadn't been conditioned on the associate's level, the bachelor's level. So a place called go is not about running out and doing something that you're not ready for or prepared to do. It's about taking the first step, taking step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4, taking the steps to achieve your goal. And each step is important. A lot of individuals who are younger, I'm 58, there's a lot of young people who've been raised in the microwave generation who look for instant gratification, and they think they can skip certain steps to achieve their goals. That's not what a place called go is about. It's about doing what you need to do, doing A, B, C, D, E, F, G, because a lot of people try to take shortcuts and get to G, and they didn't do A. And at G, they need to have mastered A, B, C, D, E, F. And so a lot of them, because they skipped or tried to rush the process because they were in a hurry to get to G, they get to G and start fumbling. They can't handle the requirements associated with level G because they skipped. A, B, C, D, E, F. So I wanted to make that point. So it's very important. So that's all for episode 23 of the Emancipated Mind Show. So tonight I talked about procrastination, and I talked about 2 dysfunctional unconscious beliefs that cause people to procrastinate. So I broke down the belief, talk very profoundly about the situation, but take no action to change anything, and the dysfunctional belief, everything you do will turn out wrong. So if you're just tuning in, if you want to watch the entire episode, the recording will be available shortly. If you would like more information about my work, I'm going to put the link to my website in the comments section. You can purchase my book, and I do have some hard copies back in stock, but you can purchase the soft copy on Amazon Kindle. You can go and purchase that and download it immediately and start reading it. But I do have hard copies back in stock, which you can purchase on my website or on Amazon. If you would like to purchase my cognitive restructuring cards, there's a set of 100 most commonly seen victim-based beliefs and a set of the 100 most commonly seen villain-based beliefs. Those are sold on my website, and they come with this workbook. I also have a workbook entitled The Adult Reenactment of the Childhood Script. I have a workbook entitled My Unaddressed Issues Make My Budget and My Schedule. Every one of these dysfunctional, unconscious beliefs make demands on people's time and on people's money. And so on Tuesdays, I'm in the middle of a series that I do on Tuesdays at 12 o'clock p.m. Eastern Standard Time for half an hour. And it's entitled The Adult Reenactment of the Childhood Script. So I will be doing episode 4 next week. Feel free to join me. And if not, I'll hopefully see you back here next Thursday at 7 o'clock p.m. Eastern Standard Time for episode 24 of the Emancipated Mind Show. Thank you for joining me, and I look forward to seeing you again online soon. Thank you for watching the Emancipated Mind Show. Join me every week live on Facebook and YouTube on Thursdays from 7 o'clock p.m. to 7:45 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. For more information about my products and services, feel free to visit my website, AnnesiaConsulting.com, or my website, AnnesiaSpeaks.com. I can also be reached via email at afreeman@AnnesiaConsulting.com. I'll see you next week.